The quantum sensors aboard the UES Curiosity weren't supposed to detect anything unusual in this sector of space. This far from Earth, Dr. Maya Patel had expected another routine survey mission. Instead, her afternoon coffee nearly slipped from her fingers as the readings exploded across her holographic display. "Captain Walker," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." Captain James Walker strode across the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the ship's instruments. At 45, he'd spent more time in space than planetside, but nothing in his 2 decades of experience had prepared him for what the sensors were showing. "That's impossible," he muttered, leaning closer to the display. "Those energy readings, they're off the charts." Before them, seemingly emerging from nowhere, a massive structure materialized. It dwarfed their ship, stretching for kilometers in every direction. A space station larger than anything humanity had ever constructed. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly precision, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with internal light. "Looks like we finally answered the question of whether we're alone in the universe," Maya said, her scientific training barely containing her excitement. As the ship's lead xenophysicist, she'd spent her career searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now the evidence was literally staring them in the face. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, running every scan they could think of. The station's technology was clearly centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, but something about its design principles seemed oddly familiar. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen called from the communications station. "We're being hailed. They're broadcasting on." "Wait, that can't be right. They're using our own communications protocols." Walker straightened his uniform. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered, and a figure appeared. It was roughly humanoid, but its skin had a metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed with an inner light. When it spoke, its words were perfectly translated into English. "Unregistered vessel, you have entered the sovereign territory of the Eternal Dominion. Your primitive craft has been detected and analyzed. Prepare for immediate integration into the Dominion's database of lesser species." Walker blinked, caught off guard by both the casual dismissal and the imperious tone. He glanced at Maya, who shrugged slightly. This wasn't how either of them had imagined first contact. "This is Captain James Walker of the United Earth ship Curiosity. We come in peace as explorers and—" "Your designation is irrelevant," the figure interrupted. "The Dominion has ruled these stars for 10,000 years. Your species will be categorized and assigned an appropriate servitude level based on your technological development." The figure paused, consulting something off-screen. "Initial scans indicate Category 7, Primitive Chemical Propulsion Species. You will be assigned to basic resource extraction duties." A laugh escaped Maya's lips before she could stop herself. The bridge crew turned to stare at her, but she couldn't help it. The situation was too absurd. "I'm sorry," she said, addressing the alien figure, "but I think there's been a misunderstanding. We don't use chemical propulsion. This ship operates on quantum vacuum drive technology. And did you say you've ruled for 10,000 years without changing your classification system?" The figure's glowing eyes flickered. "Impossible. Our scans are probably based on assumptions that are 10,000 years old," Maya finished. "You might want to update your databases." Walker shot her a warning look, but there was a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. The alien figure seemed to be struggling to process this challenge to its authority. "Your insolence is noted. Prepare for immediate boarding and technological verification. Resistance will result in—" "Actually," Walker interrupted, his voice taking on the calm tone he usually reserved for teaching new recruits, "I don't think we will. You see, we humans have a bit of a problem with being classified as lesser anything. Tell your superiors that Earth would be happy to establish diplomatic relations as equals. Otherwise—" He nodded to Maya. She grinned and activated the quantum drive's new stealth protocols. Another innovation the Dominion's ancient scans hadn't detected. The Curiosity disappeared from their sensors, leaving the alien figure staring at empty space. Otherwise, Walker continued, his ship now invisible but his transmissions still clear. You might want to update more than just your databases. Curiosity out. As the transmission cut off, the bridge erupted in a mixture of nervous laughter and excited chatter. They had just made first contact with an advanced alien civilization and effectively told them to take their empire and shove it. Think we made an impression? Maya asked, still grinning. Walker sighed, but he was smiling too. Oh, I'd say we definitely made an impression. Lieutenant Chen, get me a quantum link to Earth Command. And Maya, better start writing up your first contact report. Something tells me this is just the beginning. As the Curiosity slipped away through quantum space, the Dominion station blazed with activity. For the first time in thousands of years, its automated systems were updating their classification protocols. On a distant world, alarms began to sound in ancient halls of power. A species that should have been easy to categorize and control had instead revealed capabilities that shouldn't have been possible. And worse, they had laughed at the Dominion's authority. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had arrived on the cosmic stage, and they weren't here to be classified, cataloged, or controlled. They were here to explore, to innovate, and to prove that 10,000 years of stagnant power meant nothing compared to the boundless potential of human ingenuity. 2 weeks after the Curiosity's encounter, the Eternal Dominion proved it hadn't ruled the galaxy for 10 millennia by being patient. A fleet of 700 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, their crystalline hulls gleaming like artificial stars. In the hastily established Unified Earth Defense Command Center beneath the Himalayas, Maya Patel stared at the tactical display with a mixture of awe and analytical interest. The Dominion ships were beautiful, each one a perfect expression of technological superiority. They were also, she noticed, all identical. They really don't believe in variety, do they? She murmured to Captain Walker, who had been recalled from the Curiosity to help coordinate Earth's defense. 10,000 years, and they're still using the same ship design. Why change what works? A new voice joined them. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading quantum physicist, approached the display with a tablet in hand. At least, that's what their transmissions suggest. They've been broadcasting the same demand for surrender for the past hour, word for word from their standard protocol. Walker smiled grimly. Then they're in for their second surprise. How's Project Patchwork coming along? Sarah's eyes lit up. Better than we hoped. Turns out when you combine 7 different countries' quantum shielding approaches instead of arguing about which one is best, you get something entirely new. The Dominion's energy weapons are powerful, but they're optimized for a single shield frequency. Maya nodded, understanding, and we're giving them 7 frequencies at once, randomly alternating. Plus whatever variations our AI comes up with on the fly, Sarah added. The simulations suggest their weapons will be only 15% as effective as they expect. The room's atmosphere shifted as new alerts flashed across the displays. The Dominion fleet was moving into attack formation, the same formation they'd probably been using since before humans invented the wheel. Here they come, Walker announced. All stations, prepare for engagement. Let's show them why adaptation beats perfection. The first wave of Dominion ships launched their assault exactly as their ancient tactical protocols dictated. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out toward Earth's orbital defenses, only to scatter against shields that shifted and morphed like soap bubbles, never staying on one frequency long enough to be overwhelmed. In the command center, Maya watched as the defensive AI learned and adapted with each shot, predicting patterns in the Dominion's attacks that even their own commanders probably didn't realize they were following. They're sending in their second wave, Sarah reported. Standard protocol would have them. Yes, there they go, shifting to a triple helix formation. Walker leaned forward. Now would be a good time to test your other theory, Dr. Chen. Sarah's fingers flew across her console. Around Earth, hundreds of small satellites that had appeared to be simple communication relays suddenly activated. The Dominion's perfect formation found itself flying through a cloud of quantum entanglement fields. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then ships began to drift out of formation. Some fired their weapons at empty space, others at their own allies. The perfect coordination that had helped the Dominion conquer 1,000 worlds fell apart in the face of sensors that could no longer trust their own readings. Quantum uncertainty on a macro scale. Maya breathed. That's beautiful. And completely impossible according to their 10,000-year-old physics, Sarah added with satisfaction. They literally cannot understand what we're doing because it contradicts principles they haven't questioned since before Earth had agriculture. The Dominion fleet's response was telling. Instead of adapting to the unexpected situation, they fell back on protocols, trying to restore their formation even as the quantum chaos made that impossible. Their transmissions shifted from demands for surrender to increasingly confused requests for tactical guidance from their central command. They don't know how to handle something their protocols don't cover, Walker observed. All those centuries of power, and they've forgotten how to think on their feet. Maya watched as the mighty fleet began to retreat, their perfect formation now in shambles. They'll be back, she said, with new protocols, new weapons. Of course they will. Walker's voice held no fear, and we'll have new surprises waiting. While they're updating their tactical databases, we'll have thought of 100 new ways to fight them. That's the real difference between us and them, isn't it? They see perfection as a destination. We see it as a journey. In the space above Earth, the last of the Dominion ships vanished into FTL, retreating to report their unprecedented failure. They left behind a graveyard of disabled vessels and shattered assumptions about the nature of lesser species. But in the command center, humanity's defenders were already planning their next steps. Teams of scientists and engineers from every nation poured over data from the battle, proposing improvements and innovations. AI systems processed combat footage, identifying patterns and suggesting countermeasures. And in a quiet corner, Maya and Sarah were already sketching out ideas for combining quantum entanglement fields with the stealth technology from the Curiosity. You know what the strangest thing is? Maya said as they worked. We've had quantum physics for less than 2 centuries. We've barely scratched the surface of what's possible. But we've already surpassed them in some ways simply because we never stopped asking what if. Sarah nodded, adding another equation to their growing diagram. 10,000 years of thinking they knew everything, and they forgot the most important thing about the universe. What's that? It never runs out of surprises. Sarah grinned, just like us. Above them, Earth's quantum shields rippled with new patterns as the defense AI tested variations no human had thought of yet. Humanity had passed its first test against the Dominion, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through the one resource that never ran dry, the capacity to imagine something new. The galaxy's oldest empire was about to learn that age and power meant nothing compared to the relentless creativity of a species that had never stopped evolving, never stopped questioning, and never accepted that good enough was good enough. In the 3 months since the Dominion's failed attack, Earth had changed more than it had in the previous century. The ancient empire had meant to intimidate humanity. Instead, they had catalyzed an unprecedented wave of innovation and unity. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Maya Patel stood in the newly constructed Quantum Integration Laboratory, watching as scientists from 20 different nations worked together on technology that would have seemed impossible just months ago. The massive chamber hummed with energy as experimental devices pushed the boundaries of what humanity thought possible. "They're ready for the test," Sarah Chen announced, approaching with a tablet displaying a complex series of equations. She looked tired but excited. None of them had gotten much sleep lately, but the results were worth it. "Want to see something that will give the Dominion's physicists a collective headache?" Maya followed her friend to a sealed chamber where a small probe floated in a containment field. It looked deceptively simple, its smooth surface betraying nothing of the revolutionary technology within. Is this the one using the principles we reversed from their weapons? Maya asked, studying the readouts. Sarah nodded. With a few improvements. The Dominion uses quantum tunneling for their FTL drives, but they treat spacetime like it's rigid. We found that if you introduce controlled uncertainty into the equations, she gestured to the probe. The device flickered and seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, each version slightly out of phase with the others. Then it vanished completely, reappearing across the room an instant later. Quantum superposition on a macroscopic scale, Sarah explained with evident pride. The probe exists in multiple possible locations until observation collapses the waveform where we want it. The Dominion sensors won't just have trouble tracking our ships, they'll be fundamentally incapable of it. Because they can't detect something that exists in quantum flux, Maya finished, understanding dawning. Their entire sensor technology is based on certainty. Exactly. 10,000 years of assuming they knew exactly how the universe worked, and they never bothered to explore the possibilities in uncertainty. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the Central Command Center. Captain Walker's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression serious but not alarmed. "Ladies, you might want to see this. Our deep space arrays just picked up something interesting." In the command center, Walker directed their attention to a series of long-range scans. Massive energy signatures were visible at the edge of detected space. The Dominion was gathering its forces. "Their fleet is 5 times larger than the last one," he reported. "But that's not the interesting part." "Show them, Dr. Patel." Diana Patel, no relation to Maya, stepped forward. The young astrophysicist had been analyzing the Dominion's fleet movements. "They're not just gathering ships," she explained. "They're updating them. Look at the energy signatures. They're different from the previous attack." "They're learning," Maya murmured, "adapting their technology to counter what we showed them." "Trying to," Sarah corrected. "But they're still thinking inside their 10,000-year-old box. They're upgrading their quantum sensors, but they're using the same fundamental principles. They're like someone trying to catch a quantum particle with a butterfly net. It doesn't matter how well made the net is if your basic approach is wrong." Walker nodded, "Which gives us an advantage. While they're busy perfecting their existing technology, we're developing entirely new approaches." "Dr. Chen, how close are we to implementing the quantum superposition drive across the fleet?" "The prototype works, but scaling it up is challenging. We need to." Sarah trailed off, her eyes widening as she stared at the sensor displays. "Wait, look at their formation patterns. They're not just gathering for an attack. They're creating a quantum containment field. They're trying to lock down space-time itself." Maya studied the data, impressed despite herself. "They're attempting to create a region where quantum uncertainty can't exist." "Smart. If it works, our new technologies would be useless within the field." "If it works," Sarah emphasized. "But they're assuming quantum mechanics follows their understanding of it. What if—" She grabbed a tablet, her fingers flying across its surface as she ran calculations. "What if we don't fight the containment? What if we use it?" The others gathered around as she explained her idea. It was audacious, probably impossible by any reasonable standard. It would require coordinating dozens of untested technologies in ways their inventors hadn't imagined. In short, it was exactly the kind of thing humans did best. Over the next few weeks, Earth's combined scientific community threw itself into Project Uncertainty with characteristic determination. Traditional laboratories worked alongside AI systems that could process quantum equations faster than any human. Engineers and physicists collaborated with science fiction writers, using imagination to bridge the gaps between what was known and what was possible. In orbit, the first ships equipped with the new quantum superposition drives began testing Sarah's theories. They pushed the boundaries of physics, finding the places where reality itself grew fuzzy around the edges. Each failure taught them something new. Each success opened up new possibilities. The Dominion was coming, yes, but they would find a humanity transformed, not just by new technology, but by the reminder of what had made humans a force to be reckoned with since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. In the quantum integration laboratory, Maya watched as another successful test concluded. "You know what's ironic?" she said to Sarah. "The Dominion thinks their age makes them superior, but it's our youth that gives us strength. We're still new enough to believe in impossible things." Sarah smiled, already working on improvements to the quantum drive. "The universe is infinite," she replied. "The moment you think you understand it all is the moment you stop growing. The Dominion stopped growing 10,000 years ago. And we're just getting started," Maya finished. Above them, Earth's quantum shields rippled with new patterns, each one a testament to humanity's refusal to accept limitations. The Dominion was bringing their perfected technology to crush a young species that dared to defy them. They were about to learn that perfection was no match for possibility. The Dominion's quantum containment field stretched across an entire sector of space, a shimmering wall of force that would have made their ancestors proud. 10,000 ships held perfect formation, their combined power attempting to impose order on the fundamentally chaotic nature of reality itself. Admiral Locke stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion's flagship, his metallic features set in an expression of satisfaction. The humans had proven surprisingly resourceful, but surely even they would understand the futility of resistance when faced with the Empire's true might. "My lord," his sensor officer reported, "the containment field is at full strength. All quantum fluctuations within the target zone have been suppressed. Their uncertainty-based technologies will be useless." Locke nodded. Everything was proceeding according to the new protocols. This time, there would be no surprises. That's when the humans did exactly what the Dominion had assumed was impossible. They appeared inside the containment field itself. Not at its edge, not trying to break through it, but deep inside what should have been an impenetrable barrier. A fleet of Earth ships simply manifested. In the Antarctic Command Center, Maya watched the operation unfold with held breath. Beside her, Sarah was monitoring the quantum readings, her expression intense with concentration. "Phase 1 complete," Sarah reported. "The Dominion's containment field is actually amplifying the effect, just like we predicted. They're trying so hard to suppress quantum uncertainty that they've created a perfect environment for quantum tunneling." Captain Walker, now Admiral Walker, allowed himself a small smile. "Like squeezing a balloon. Press too hard in one place, and it bulges in another. Signal the fleet. Begin Phase 2. The Earth ships, their hulls rippling with quantum displacement fields, began to move. But instead of engaging the Dominion fleet directly, they started what appeared to be a complex dance through space. The enemy vessels are executing an unknown formation," the Dominion sensor officer reported, confusion evident in his voice. "Their movement patterns appear random." They weren't random. Every position, every maneuver had been calculated by Earth's quantum AIs to create a cascading series of probability waves. The Dominion's containment field, designed to suppress quantum uncertainty, was instead being used to channel and amplify it. "Heavy Cruiser Group 6 is reporting sensor malfunctions," another officer called out. "Their targeting systems are, my lord, they're seeing multiple versions of each Earth ship." "Impossible," Locke snapped. "The containment field is working exactly as designed." Maya murmured back on Earth, watching the plan unfold. "That's the problem." The Dominion fleet's perfect formation began to waver as ship after ship reported conflicting sensor data. Their protocols, designed for a universe of absolute certainties, had no way to handle targets that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. "Now," Walker commanded, "launch the resonance probes." Small devices, barely larger than satellites, emerged from the Earth ships. They looked insignificant compared to the Dominion's mighty vessels, but they carried within them humanity's understanding of something the Empire had forgotten: the power of harmony. The probes activated, each one generating a quantum field that resonated with the Dominion's containment field. Like a crystal glass shattered by the right musical note, the massive barrier began to vibrate with sympathetic frequencies. "My lord," the Dominion science officer's voice was frantic now. "The containment field, it's becoming self-reinforcing. The quantum suppression effect is growing exponentially." Locke watched in horror as his perfect weapon turned against itself. The field had been designed to impose order on chaos, to suppress quantum uncertainty. Now, driven by the human's resonance probes, it was trying to suppress itself. "Shut it down," he commanded. "Disengage the field." But it was too late. The cascade effect was spreading through the Dominion fleet. Ships that had been channeling power into the containment field found themselves trapped by their own energy, locked in a bubble of space where quantum effects weren't just suppressed, they were inverted. From the Earth Command Center, Maya watched as the mighty Dominion fleet effectively froze in space, each ship caught in a moment of quantum uncertainty that their own technology had created. "Status?" Walker asked quietly. "The resonance effect is stable," Sarah reported. "Their ships are operational, but locked in a quantum null state. They can't move, can't fire weapons, can't even communicate until they shut down all their quantum-based systems, which their protocols probably don't even allow them to consider," Maya added. "They'd have to admit that their fundamental understanding of physics was flawed." Walker nodded. "Send the message." Throughout the Dominion fleet, a transmission began playing on every command frequency. It was a simple message, delivered in Admiral Walker's calm voice. "You tried to impose certainty on an uncertain universe. We chose to embrace the chaos and learn its patterns. Your ships will be released when you power down your containment systems and agree to open diplomatic negotiations. The choice is yours. Adapt or remain frozen in time, like you have been for the past 10,000 years. Hours passed. Then, one by one, the Dominion ships began powering down their quantum systems. The containment field collapsed, and reality reasserted itself. But it was a reality forever changed. As the first diplomatic transmissions began, Maya turned to Sarah. "Think they'll actually learn from this?" Sarah shrugged, already making notes for improvements to the resonance technology. "They'll have to. We've shown them that their perfect understanding of the universe isn't so perfect after all. That's the thing about science. There's always more to learn. Always more to imagine," Maya corrected with a smile. Above them, the quantum sensors registered an interesting new phenomenon created by the interaction of their technologies. Another mystery to explore, another possibility to investigate. While the Dominion had spent 10 millennia perfecting what they knew, humanity had never lost their drive to discover what they didn't know. The age of certainty was over. The age of imagination had begun. 1 year after Operation Checkmate, the galaxy was a very different place. The Great Hall of the former Eternal Dominion's High Council chamber now hosted representatives from 100 species, including humans, but unlike the rigid hierarchies of the past, this was a gathering of equals. Maya stood at the chamber's observation window, watching ships of various designs move through the quantum lanes around the station. Some followed traditional Dominion patterns, others exhibited Earth's new technologies, and many showed interesting combinations of both. Evolution in action, she thought with satisfaction. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Sarah joined her at the window, her formal diplomatic uniform, a far cry from her usual lab coat. "A year ago, they wanted to classify us as a primitive species. Now they're asking us to teach at their science academies." "Well, we did break their understanding of physics," Maya replied with a grin. "That tends to get attention." They turned as Admiral Walker approached, accompanied by former Admiral Locke. The Dominion officer's metallic features had softened somewhat over the past year, his rigid posture relaxed by degrees. He had been among the first to truly understand the lessons of their defeat. "The council session is about to begin," Walker announced. "They're ready to hear the joint proposal." The four made their way to their seats as representatives from across the galaxy settled into place. The chamber hummed with dozens of languages, translation fields ensuring everyone could understand each other. Another innovation born from the collaboration between Earth and Dominion technology. The Council Leader, a position that now rotated between species, called for attention. We gather to consider the proposed establishment of the Galactic Institute of Innovation and Discovery. Admiral Laux and Dr. Chen will present the initiative. Sarah stood, facing the assembled representatives. The nervousness she once felt addressing such gatherings had been replaced by quiet confidence. For 10,000 years, she began, the Dominion pursued perfection through standardization. They achieved remarkable things, but at a cost, the loss of perspective, of the drive to question and explore. Humanity, when we encountered them, had a different approach. We embraced uncertainty, celebrated diversity of thought, and never stopped asking what if. Laux rose to join her. We thought our age made us superior. Instead, it had made us stagnant. The humans showed us that true strength lies not in having all the answers, but in never stopping the search for new questions. The Galactic Institute, Sarah continued, will combine the best of both our approaches. The Dominion's vast knowledge and technical expertise paired with humanity's creativity and willingness to challenge assumptions, not to perfect what we know, but to explore what we don't know. The presentation continued, outlining plans for research centers, cultural exchange programs, and collaborative projects, but the real changes were already visible throughout the galaxy. Dominion ships now carried diverse crews, their formerly identical designs evolving as they incorporated new ideas. Earth's quantum technologies had spread, but not unchanged. Other species had added their own innovations, creating possibilities no one had imagined before. The rigid hierarchies of the past had given way to a more dynamic order. Species that had been classified as primitive were sharing insights that centuries of conformity had caused others to overlook. The galaxy was awakening from a long sleep of certainty into a new age of discovery. After the session, Maya found herself back at the observation window. A ship caught her eye, one of the new hybrid designs. Its hull rippled with quantum displacement fields, but its core still bore the distinctive marks of Dominion engineering. Evolution, not revolution. Penny for your thoughts, Walker asked, joining her. Just thinking about what we really gave them, she replied. Not just new technology or scientific principles. We gave them back something they'd lost. The courage to be wrong. Walker nodded. The willingness to try something new, even if it might fail. To see failure not as a flaw, but as a step toward something better. Speaking of trying something new, Sarah interrupted, approaching with a tablet. The quantum resonance experiments at the Institute are showing some interesting results. We think we found a way to establish stable wormholes using principle of uncertainty. The old guard at the Academy is having fits, Laux added, a very human note of amusement in his voice. They insist it's impossible, just like they said your quantum superposition drive was impossible. Impossible is just something that hasn't been imagined properly yet, Maya replied, a phrase that had become something of a motto for the new era. As they discussed the implications of the discovery, more ships passed by the window. Each one was different. Each one represented choices and changes and possibilities. The galaxy had traded the illusion of perfection for the reality of progress. The eternal dominion had ended, but something better had taken its place. A civilization that understood that the greatest strength lay not in knowing all the answers, but in never stopping the search for new questions. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors or subjects, but as catalysts. They had reminded an ancient civilization of something it had forgotten, that the universe was not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be explored. That true power lay not in imposing order on chaos, but in dancing with it. And as the first graduates of the Galactic Institute prepared to set out on missions of exploration and discovery, they carried with them the most important lesson of all, that in an infinite universe, there would always be more to learn, more to imagine, and more to become. The age of certainty was over. The age of possibility had just begun.